For those of you who don't know me, I'm a new student. I switched from another school here in Kuwait at the beginning of this year. What I find weird, though, is that despite my relative unfamiliarity with ASK, I feel a lot more comfortable here. Why? I'm not sure. True, ASK provides a stronger education, but that doesn't completely explain why I feel such comfort. To be honest, I have a greater sense of pride in ASK as a new student than I ever did in my old school. To clarify this a bit, I'll start off with a story from when I was at my old school. It was the end of 8th grade, and the school had organized a field trip for us, as a leaving middle school type thing. The plan was a movie, then lunch. Now, after we finished lunch, I turned to my friends at the table and remind them to leave a tip. One of them goes, "I'll leave a tip, but I don't have to." What? And he goes, "It's not like we're in the US, where everyone goes crazy about that stuff. I can be a little and not give them anything, and nobody will give a damn here. I can do whatever I want. No one cares." He said that with such smugness, such entitlement. I understand that in some cultures it isn't customary to leave a tip, and I wish that had been the reason for his remarks. It wasn't. I think what really resonated with me was his "no one cares." It's wrong on so many levels. Set aside all the societal labels that we create, and we're all just plain people. The waiters and waitresses are people. No one cares. He knew that he could get away with it, and he loved that he could get away with it. He loved that he had the power to not pay that tip. I still have that image in my mind's eye, all of us sitting around that table. I remember looking up, expecting those seated next to me to be as visibly shocked as I. After all, everyone else at the table had been listening. Silence. Nobody batted an eyelash. In a sense, he was right. No one cared. That's why I'm giving this talk. That's the mentality that we need to get rid of, that closed-minded bigotry stemming from being steeped in prejudice from an early age. I've thought and deliberated, searched for the missing element at my previous school which inspired that mentality, and I think I've reached, perhaps, something of a conclusion. My old school was uniform. It was a small socioeconomic bubble of people. Each student was a distorted reflection of the rest. Ideas went unquestioned because if everybody in your circle of friends agrees with it, then surely it must be true. I felt the creativity, the life leaching out of me there, so I started searching for someplace better. And yet I wondered, what was better? What defined better? At ASK, I think I've found my answer. Diversity is what ASK has, that my old school did not. When I throw an idea out there, I can always find someone waiting to catch it, to throw something back at me. Ideas in my old school went tumbling sadly into the abyss, drowned out by the infinite echo chamber. Here's the thing. My old school taught math. It taught science. English and Arabic were mandatory. But unless you have any idea of how to implement that knowledge, it's absolutely useless. If I don't have any consciousness of what's going on around me, I won't know what to do with all the practical skills that the education system gives me. I think, in a way, I was missing half of my education. The amalgamation of cultures, ideas, belief systems. That's what I was missing. I was looking at the world through a restrictive keyhole, through the lens of an elitist, walled-in community. At ASK, my perspective has changed. I'm happier here because, as a result of the interactions I've had, I feel a bit more knowledgeable about the world around me. Why am I talking about this, though? Why do I think that it's important to bring up the conspicuous lack of diversity in a school that I am no longer attending? This is why. What's going to happen now is that you're going to have all of these young adults graduating from that school. And because of the nature of that school, a lot of these people will be shaping the future of Kuwait. And they're going to be completely blind to the world around them. That is what stifles the emerging calls for social change in my country. I think the bigoted, irrationally patriotic mentality starts from when we're kids, sitting in that classroom in that private school surrounded by our peers, all nodding in unison as our teacher says that Hindus are bad people who worship cows and that they're bad people that we shouldn't interact with. And that is a true story. At ASK, you might get one or two teachers like that. The difference is that at ASK, that wouldn't have ended up with 25 students nodding in agreement. Diversity lessens the influence of conformity. Someone would have said something. Someone would have thought, hey, something isn't quite right here. Anecdotes aside, there are tons, and I mean tons, of studies showing the positive benefits of diversity in learning environments. Just to name one, a study in the US of 25,000 undergrads at over 200 four-year colleges showed that on campuses where institutional policies fostered diversity, students had stronger cognitive development, developed better leadership skills, and they also ended up with more satisfied with their college experience. We've established that there's an issue. We know that the severe lack of diversity in our communities exists. Can it be remedied? I think so. Will it be easy? I'm afraid not. So how do I think we should approach this? Start from the very bottom, preschoolers, kindergartners. At that age, I would hope prejudice hasn't set in yet. Small steps, encourage educators to initiate discussions about acceptance, about compassion, organize workshops for parents to ensure that they're good role models. A lot of the time, kids pick that stuff up from their parents. When kids are older, bring in speakers who have stories to tell, stories about being discriminated against, maybe even stories about when they were prejudiced towards someone. I remember in 4th grade, 2 policemen came to talk to us about, well, being policemen. Maybe that was just insignificant, but it had a lasting impression on me. It was a glimpse into the lives of the policemen, a piece of the real world brought into the classroom. That's our goal, remember, to get these kids to see the real world outside of that bubble. For students my age, start conversations in class about religion, about race, conversations with actual substance which provoke thought. This isn't to say that we aren't making progress. From volunteers in programs like LOYAC to things as simple as Compassion Club at ASK, youth are getting the opportunity to get their hands dirty, to put themselves into the real world. It gives me hope that eventually something will happen. Eventually, we will bring about change. I believe, that one day we will be rid of that bigoted, prejudiced mentality. One day, I want to find myself sitting in the audience with you all, watching that boy who refused to pay that tip to the waiter. Practice compassion, he'll say, and I'll know that we've succeeded. Thank you.